Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from Bern Academy of the Arts to everyone who is joining us today. My name is Hanna Hölling, and I work here as a research professor and project lead on two research initiatives: performance, conservation, materiality, knowledge, and also the project activating fluxus. But it is within the context of the performance, conservation, materiality, knowledge that this colloquium has been organized, and that I greet everyone today, our distinguished speakers, my colleagues, and everyone watching us today from all over the world. Our today's colloquium marks not only the end of the second year of our research project, performance, conservation, materiality, knowledge, but is also the second in the series of annual colloquia, following the extremely well-received performance, the ethics and politics of care colloquium that took place in May 2021. And the essays authored by the contributors to this colloquium and enriched by several new chapters by invited guests are currently being processed for publication by Routledge. And the recording from this colloquium is available on our website, www.performanceconservationmaterialityknowledge.sh. I'm greeting everyone also on behalf of my colleagues, postdoctoral fellow Jules Pelta Feldman.
Hello.
And doctoral candidate Emilie Magnin, who are co-researchers on the project and were crucial in putting this event together. And you will see them just in a minute on the screen more extensively. The team of the project and of the colloquium came together due to a generous funding from the Swiss National Science Foundation and was made possible owing to the continuing support of the research division and the Department of Materiality in Art and Culture at Bern Academy of the Arts. So we are really, really grateful for their support. In our project, Performance, Conservation, Materiality, Knowledge, we ask, can performance be conserved? And if so, how? And what does it mean to conserve performance? Performance works, ephemeral, sensitive to sight, embedded in history, and often tied to the body of the artist, have long been considered beyond the reach of conservation and restoration, which have traditionally focused on objects rather than moving bodies. And yet, situating conservation next to performance offers an intriguing point of entry for theoretical and practical investigations. Examined through the lens of conservation, what is performance and what it might become? What might this new disciplinary lens reveal about performance and what about conservation? In today's colloquium, rather than adhering to the conservation as a field of specialization and obviously as a discipline, we propose to delve into other disciplinary apparatuses, perspectives, and vistas, and ask what it means to sustain the performance life into the future, and what does performance become as glimpsed through the lens of distinct disciplinary perspectives. And how this is going to be done will be summarized by Jules. So over to you.
To help us think through these notions today, we invited a distinguished group of speakers whose work and ideas have been inspirational to our own work. Performance conservation demands a multidisciplinary approach, and it can be found within surprisingly many practices and areas of study. We are delighted to have such thoughtful and unconventional perspectives on anthropology, music, art history, performance studies, and artistic practice, which represent the diversity of what it can mean to conserve performance, and which we know will fuel many conversations, debates, and research endeavors to come. First, Michaela Schäuble will present her research into reenactments and remediations of ritual, tracing its technologically assisted transformation from local ceremony to a form of cultural heritage that can be consumed globally like other media. Schäuble, who is professor of anthropology at the University of Bern, also brings to bear her work as a documentary filmmaker and her experiences curating film. Thomas Gartmann, a musicologist as well as head of research here at Bern Academy of the Arts, investigates what it means for music to be repeated, sustained, and conserved, concentrating on experimental forms like improvisation. Gartmann will also include a consideration of player pianos, challenging us to consider performance beyond human performers. Moving to art history, we will hear from Amelia Jones, who is Robert A. Day Professor and Vice Dean of Academics and Research at the Roski School of Art and Design, University of Southern California. Jones was unfortunately not able to join us today, but she pre-recorded a talk for us reflecting on her curatorial approach to her recent retrospective of performance artist Ron Athey. Approaching this formidable project with warmth, humor, and openness, Jones developed a gracious and compelling model for presenting the legacy of deeply challenging performance work in the framework of an art exhibition. We will then hear from Dred Scott, a radical and multidisciplinary artist whose chosen name reflects the depth of his engagement with history. In 1857, the US Supreme Court ruled in Dred Scott versus Sanford to deny the rights and privileges of American citizenship to people of African descent. Scott understands this decision not only as a matter of legal history, but also of contemporary reality. Indeed, Scott's performance works frequently bring the gestures and movements of the past to bear on the politics and aesthetics of the present, adding an intriguing complexity to the question of how he imagines his own work living on in the future, which he will address for us today. Finally, my colleagues Emilie and Hanna and I will have the privilege of posing questions to Philip Auslander, who is professor in the School of Literature, Media, and Communication at Georgia Tech, and a screen actor with over 2 decades of experience. Auslander is known for his influential and still electrifying approach to the documentation of performance, which we, as well as you all, will have a chance to ask him about today. Following this final presentation, our speakers will come together to discuss and debate with each other and with all of us. They and we very much look forward to your questions. Each of our presenters brings to bear the history and resources of their own discipline, as well as the innovations and provocations that are uniquely their own. Having been fortunate enough to have engaged with the work of each of them, I know that we are in for a very stimulating day. And you may learn more about each speaker and their talk in the colloquium program, which we are now sharing in the chat. During our break, you will be treated to a piece of experimental music by Paula Sanchez-Mugas, who received this past summer her master's degree in the Contemporary Art Practice program of Bern Academy of the Arts. And once again, this year, we have the pleasure of welcoming Gisela Hochuli, who will perform In Strange Hands 2 this afternoon. This performance is a sequel to In Strange Hands, which Hochuli performed last year at our first annual colloquium. For that performance, the artist solicited performance instructions or event scores from colloquium participants, which she then interpreted live for us. Today, Hochuli will revisit that premise with a new set of scores contributed by all of you. If you are curious about her performance, you will find a list of all the scores submitted at the end of the colloquium program. Hochuli's project is lively proof that the continuation of performance is very much compatible with vitality, change, and the unexpected. And as you'll see, reading the scores really suggests more questions than answers about what kind of performance is in store for us today. And now over to Emilie.
Thank you. This event could not have been put together without the help and effort of many people. So I would like now to give some words of gratitude. First, I'd like to acknowledge our dear friends and colleagues at the Bern Academy of the Arts and to warmly thank all them for their support. First, our own Valerian Mali for invaluable exchanges and inspiration during the past 2 years working together. Professor Sebastian Dobruskin, head of the Institute for Materiality in Art and Culture, for all his support in making the speakers' invitations possible. Daniela Wüttrich at the Research Secretariat for her administrative support in the organization, Louise Baumgartner and Nathalie Pernet for their support with our media presence, Raymond Taubin-Chabot and our colleagues at the IT department and the Media Lab for all their work and investment in making the event possible. Many thanks also to the sound artist, Paula Sanchez-Mugas, for sharing her piece with us, and to artist Felipe Arteaga for letting us use his studio space today. And of course, a very big thank you to our own invaluable technical assistant, Charles Rappner, who supports us behind the scenes and makes sure that everything runs smoothly. Last but not least, a warm thank you to all the speakers, artists, and panelists, including also Aga Vielosha, who will join us for the evening panel. We'd like also to thank everyone attending our colloquium today and who have been following our work and inspiring our thinking over the past 2 years. We are especially grateful also to Amelia Jones, who couldn't join us live today for personal reasons, but so generously offered to record her presentation in advance. Before we start, just a few words about today's organization. The afternoon will be split into 2 sessions, including 2 entry presentations. For the 15 minutes break, we are excited to have a new performance interlude by Gisela Hochuli. And at the end of the day, we will have a 1-hour panel discussion with all the presenters. Each presentation will be followed by a short Q&A. You can please type your questions directly into the Q&A section, and we will moderate the questions. There will be also an opportunity for questions and interacting during the final panel discussion at 5:15. And if you wish to communicate or interact more informally, please use the chat section. You can also contact us in private if you have any question or issue. And finally, I would like to remind everyone that this event is being recorded and that it will be made available online later. Now, I wish all of us a wonderful half day of exchanges and conversation. And it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker.